Awesome. Mr. Jeff Merkel, thank you for joining us today on Heroic You can put it there. You can on Heroic Hospitality. Boy, I've gotten to know you a bit. You live right around the corner from Beacon. You've helped us a lot with your company, Merkel Productions. I know it's a longer name, but that's how I know it.
I do a lot of different things. So yes.
Yeah. And you have a brand new gig at Meow Wolf, which is, I can't wait to start talking about that. You're the exhibition manager. Very good. And you're just a big part of the neighborhood. So I just think it's really important that Denver gets to know you a bit better. And I get to know you a bit better too. This is awesome. Super fun about having the podcast is I get to know my friends just that much better, you know?
I mean, it's crazy because when we first heard of Beacon coming to the neighborhood and they're like, oh, it's gonna be a burner bar, we were so excited. And they're like, those are our people. We gotta go say hi. And then we went with Robert. We literally just walked in the front door and we're like, hey, we heard you guys doing something cool here. We want to say what's up. And so that was like our first time. And then it's been like, a few years now.
And then you guys actually, you and your wife Diana actually did a art piece.
We did the DJ booth. We redid the DJ booth because places like those, they
see some action.
They patina quickly.
They patina, there's a good way of saying it. I'm sure you see a lot of patina at Meow Wolf too.
Yeah.
And I guess Diana actually did the light above the communal table.
She did those. Yep. And actually, she's spawned off and been doing a big that has really like exploded. She just got back and we've been. That's our whole next year is building those in a very large scale format. So they're like,
that's amazing. Let's give a shout out to her really quick. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So my wife, Diana Merkel, so she's also an artist as well.
Yeah.
Graphic designer by background, but now she's also an artist as well. And we work together a lot. And so I kind of come from a technical side of stuff and I have a lot of fabrication stuff that I like to do. And she is a great idea person.
What kind of fabrication do you do?
So I have a full wood shop and a metal shop, so I can weld and plasma cut and CNC. And
you're going to regret you're telling me this. We're sitting in Beacon 2.0 here.
I know.
Need a lot of that's actually you're talking about.
That was how it first started because when you guys were building out that space, John Medina was reaching out and he's like, hey, I need some fabbing. And then I actually ended up doing a lot of the cutting for the what is the yellow room? What do you call that? What is the space?
Which room?
The bee room, the honey room.
Oh, the beehive, yep.
The beehive. So I ended up doing hive mind, that's right. So I ended up cutting a lot of the wood for in there too.
Oh yeah, Alicia.
So I've got little fingers in here and there. Oh. But Diana came up with those globe ideas as small lanterns and then they just blew up and we made them gigantic and now you can climb inside of them and climb around them. And so she just got back from a big festival this last weekend.
What festival
It's called Tahoe Live. It's their second year.
There's a new festival.
I know. It's a big one. But we have a bunch more of those lined up this whole season. And I don't know, a lot more art and a lot more big stuff and coming up that we're really excited about.
Well, we'd love to celebrate what you guys are doing, however you want us to do that, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, however is the best way to do that. I started this podcast, just a really quick story. I went to a celebration of life the other day, and I didn't know this gentleman very well, but what the importance of this relationship was just a short, probably 3 or 4 interactions. And I was like, who's the best chef in town? Who's the one guy doing cool stuff? And this guy really took the time to talk with me. I was a stranger and really embrace like what Denver has to offer and the community in Denver. And although I didn't know him very well, I'll tell you, it was so powerful just to know like the give back he offered. And he didn't really realize he was doing that. And so the older I get, the more I want to give back and the more I want to offer access to amazing people like you on a show like this. And this show is basically like for entrepreneurs, nightlife enthusiasts, hospitality professionals. And so you kind of fit all those.
Yeah, I was saying, you're speaking my language.
All those genres.
And amen to that. Like, as you get older and you start to, I don't know, you look like what you hold dear, it changes, or what's important to you, it evolves and stuff. It's interesting how that's happened. So I am full agreement. I totally get it.
It's amazing. And, giving back is more important to me now than ever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to have the, what's the title? It's like the chief of police. It's not chief of police, but it's a commander of Denver police or something like that on. And I'm like, you know what? I gave those guys so much grief growing up.
Oh yeah.
How could I make their life easier if I just asked them like good questions, teeing up some things? I'm like, how do we just make their life just that much easier as police officers?
I mean,
they just take a beating, like, all the time, left and right, the media, this and the.
I grew up as an angst-ridden punk, and I was very angsty for most of my life, and not so much like anti-police, but more like anti-establishment.
Right.
And
they get
to
in the
some
way.
extent,
I
still have a lot. I still hold a lot of the same values, but it used to be that like there was a lot more antagonism involved in my life, and now it's more like can we all just get along? So I guess it kind of turned hippie a little bit, but I don't know. I guess that's kind of like the whole Burning Man thing kind of like softened me a little bit, but probably in a good way.
That's great. Yeah. I'm actually going to the Burn this year.
Hell yeah.
It's my 50th birthday.
Hell yeah.
On play for
dude,
my
we're
50th.
I'm right behind you. Mine 50th is in September. So yeah.
Cool. Well, then there we go. Yeah. We'll have to raise a glass when we're out there. So Meow Wolf.
Yeah.
2008 was established in Texas.
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe. I'm sorry. Yep. Santa Fe. I knew that. Went there about 7 years ago. I just got back from Texas. I don't know why I was thinking Texas.
There's one in Texas too. Actually, there's two in Texas.
Oh,
there's one in.
That's maybe what it was. Yep. I was just reading, and it started with a G. What's the one?
Grapevine.
Grapevine. That's right. Okay.
Yep. So it's just outside of Dallas.
So there, that was my misspeak. But anyway, so 2008, this was established. Just this, radical outside artist interpretation of immersive experiences that have just catapulted the business to such a level nationally that growth must be just insane, which I'd love to learn more about.
Sure.
Just in through your lens. I know there's some things that probably it's I'm going to try to keep the questions pretty tactical,
of course.
So we can understand kind of what it's like in the day of life of you. But yeah, you just got hired for this position. Mm-hmm. What's your contribution to Meow Wolf in Denver?
So I come from the music background. I was, like I kind of mentioned before, I was in the punk thing, and I still am, but I out of college, I did punk bands, and all through college I was in punk. And then I started a recording studio, and then that led into doing more mastering and audio technology and just working in just audio in general. And through that experience, I was doing mostly punk, hardcore, and indie type work, but then I kind of wanted to do more. And so I kind of got involved into some of my friends were doing video work and video production and doing projection mapping and immersive art in that way. And so then I started helping them out with some of their art. And I just fell in love with the whole notion of this immersive art world. And this is 2010s around there, early 2010s. And I was just really, really involved with, really excited about that. So I ended up starting an artist collective out of that. And we ended up just working in, of all places, the Gates Planetarium here in Denver at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. And
you grew up here?
I grew up in Fort Collins. Yep, I grew up in Fort Collins, and then I went to school in Boulder, and I lived in Boulder for a really long time. I just kind of after graduation, after college, I just stayed there for a long time, and that's where I started up my studios. But then moved the studios to Denver, lived in Boulder, but then getting married, moved down here, and I've been now here down in our same building since 2006. So we've been coming up on 18 years in the neighborhood. So seen a lot of changes around here.
Yeah,
but
wow.
But yeah, so we have a pretty decent sized warehouse space, and so it allows us to really get involved with making unusual art. And so I started spinning up a collective called Signal to Noise Media Labs. And basically we express art through technology. And it was an open group. The whole idea was just to just make art with whatever technology was our medium. And so we were doing everything from a lot of visuals, a lot of immersive, a lot of interactive art and that sort of thing. And the city ended up kind of catching wind of what we were doing, and they started asking us to start doing stuff. So we did the big one. The reason I have a metal shop is because I ended up getting to do a big piece out at the Denver airport, and then we just kind of just kept going and going and going with it. And through that experience, a lot of my friends were kind of in the Meow Wolf scene, and so at that time, Meow Wolf was doing same sort of thing. I mean, albeit a little more anarchistic, down in Santa Fe, and which is really cool because it was just a very countercultural movement that they were doing down there. But it also really spoke to me in what they were doing. And it was very organically formed. And it was just, I don't know, very, very raw. And there's a really cool movie if you haven't seen it. It's on Meow Wolf Origins. And it's basically, it's called Origin. I mean, it's called Origin, and it really goes through like the whole early days of how it started, and then actually how like George R. R. Martin was the like injection.
How did you get involved with them?
So we heard, like, I went down there because when it first opened, when House of Eternal Return opened, it just blasted everywhere. And it was just, the word was on the street. We're like, you got to see this place. It's so cool. So we went down there for a weekend, and I just blew my mind. And my wife, Diana, had already been down there with some friends, and she's like, you got to go see this place. So we made the trek down there because it's only like a 5-hour drive. And it was just amazing. It was amazing. But I will say that we went during like a spring break time when it was like 1 million kids, and that was kind of a mistake. But it was very cool. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And then we heard that they were going to be like potentially coming to Denver. And so it was, in the early days, it was they're looking at a few different locations. And so they were like they were sending out scouts, and they would actually throw parties, and they would have these like kind of like gatherings, and we just, because of through the scene, we just started going to all these parties with them and getting to know a lot of the original people, and just started just like I'm like, you are my people. I need to work with you. And so we just kind of like started that relationship. And then I ended up contracting with them early in like 2017 and 18. I was, going down to Santa Fe. I was doing some stuff here, but going down to Santa Fe and helping out some audio stuff and a little here and there.
It's really great to hear that. I mean, it's also very good advice. You know, if you want something, go after it, and don't just like take the normal approach of, I'm going to apply for a job, or I need to meet the one person to get the one job. You know, it is just like, figure it out who is, you know, influential in that group of people, or in that bar, or in that restaurant, or in, you know, the Denver Art Museum, whatever you want to get involved in, right? How do you just shoulder to shoulder with them, just experience life together? And it sounds like that was a great strategy for you to kind of get your foot in the door. And then, so once you got to meet these amazing folks, you started to consult with them a little bit as a contractor, you just said, and then eventually something became available, and then here we are.
I nailed it on the head.
Okay.
And to your point though, like as a strategy, I mean, it's a long game, and in all things in life. Like, so it's, you can't expect to just like fast track this stuff. So if you follow your, I would say, not necessarily your passion, but if you see like a group or collective or a company or people that you want to be associated with, you can end up like getting close to them. It may take a while. Sometimes you can get lucky, and it's just like, you just ended up like running into somebody at a bus stop or something like that.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
You just don't give up. That's the best advice. And, you know, we live in a world where things are just so, you know, fly by night, and like, you know, you lose interest pretty quick if it doesn't happen immediately. You know, we're just so part of this immediate culture right now. If it doesn't happen immediately, then it must not be meant to be. You know?
And this one helps, especially because this was part of my personal passion. It was, you know, it was not only like a professional passion, it was a personal passion. So and those two coincided. But I will say it's a long road, a very economically difficult up and down road to get to that point. So
what did the interview process look like for you?
So what ended up happening is, early in the days, I ended up getting recruited. They're like, hey, we heard you doing this cool like audio stuff. Can you come talk about it? I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So I went down and just, that's how I met the team. And I gave a presentation on kind of the audio stuff that I was doing down there. And then I was like, this is kind of interesting. And so it turned out it was a recruiting effort. They're like, so we're going to be posting this position. You should probably apply for it. And so, but at the time it was more of a kind of a lateral move for me, because I was teaching, and I was really dedicated to becoming like a full tenured professor. Like that was my goal. I loved doing it, but that was my plan. And it was also like, I didn't know if I really wanted to move to Santa Fe, and not that I wouldn't. I love Santa Fe, but it was just at the time in my life when we had a lot of business stuff going on here. It was very difficult for us to consider moving down there. And so it was one of those things that, like, well, I don't know if we can do this. And then they're like, well, why don't you come on as like one of our main contractors for Denver? But then that's right when COVID hit, and then that's when things kind of crumbled. And so things went down for a little while. And in fact, I lost all of my relationships with Meow Wolf because things were very tumultuous at the time. So like they were right in the middle of, because they ended up building Las Vegas and Denver kind of simultaneously. And Las Vegas ended up finishing first. Basically that was all built up. And then Denver came online, but there was so much turnover in the company after COVID and during COVID that I basically had lost my contacts. And so then I was just like, I don't know, I was doing the academia thing, and for a couple of years I was contracted. I got really into video games, so like video game development, and so we're starting up a new video game program for a little while, and that ended up like not panning out. And at that time, I was like, I'd invested a lot of time and effort into that endeavor, and I was like, man, I should reach out and find out what some of my other. Through that original, all of those original friends I had from those artist collective, they ended up coming up through Meow Wolf and through other avenues. So I reached out and I was like, hey, so what's new over at Meow Wolf? And I didn't even know he was in Denver. And he's like, you should come over and see what's going on. And at that time, I was also kind of working with some of the people down in Santa Fe, and it was like right time, right place. Overall, it's like Meow Wolf is a B corporation, which is a public benefit corporation, which is really cool because it's not putting money first; it's putting people and environment ahead of finances. Of course, it's a business; it does need to make money, but the way the company is structured is pretty interesting and pretty unique.
So, how is it structured? Is there a president or a CEO?
There's a CEO, Jose Tolosa, right now is our CEO.
And then what's the waterfall?
So basically, again, it's called Inc., as we call it, it's incorporated. That's basically the parent company, and then we have each individual location is its own entity, its own LLC.
Okay,
but they're all like integrated together. So we still work closely with everybody, but they are technically two separate entities, but we work closely with them. And so,
so the one in Denver has a CEO, or is it
nope, we have a general manager.
Manager.
Yep. And
then that who answers, like, so that we have the general manager at the Meow Wolf in Denver.
Yep. And then we have like directors and managers and a whole bunch of people. So it's and it ranges from, I mean, it's I can't even remember exactly how many people work on staff right now in Denver, but it's a pretty good number of people. I mean, it ranges from like food and beverage to security to, so I'm like part of facilities. So, yeah. But I'm exhibition manager. So we have F&E, facilities and exhibition. And then and what my role is,
what's a day in the life?
Yeah, so it's awesome. So basically, so I end up running the tech and the art teams. So then we have essentially then we have leads of the tech team and the art and scenic team, and then below that we have 6 people on each of those teams. And so our job is to keep the place on. I mean, if you haven't been, you should go check it out. It's really, really, really wild. It's insane. I mean, it's just madness how big and how much art is stuffed in there. But one of the cool things about that place is that it's meant to be touched and interacted with, yeah. and it's supposed to be immersive, and like it's one of the places you're allowed to touch the art. You're supposed to touch it nicely though, and not everybody does, and stuff breaks down.
And you're still talking about the day in the life, because I know where you're going with this. Because I know what this looks like.
So our job is to try to keep the place, alive and on. Part of it is just maintenance. So it's basically a lot of it's actually maintenance.
Yeah.
So it's just keeping the place like looking good, because it patinas quickly, right? And so it breaks down. There's a lot of touching and stuff, and not necessarily malicious, but things wear out fast. And also because the way it was designed, it's designed by a lot of like incredibly passionate artists. But when you create public art, and this is something I learned after my first art pieces, like public art pieces, is that people are incredibly hard. You think you made it bulletproof, and it is so not. Like if there's a little chink in the armor, people are going to find it. And so, and part of it, I mean, that's
great advice for us too.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, that's part of the experience though, because I mean, Meow Wolf is also a narrative. It's a story. It's an interactive story that it's a puzzle, right? And the whole place is a giant puzzle. And your job is to solve that puzzle by figuring out and opening drawers and touching things and looking on computers and opening doors. So,
And that story starts when you first walk in.
It does.
Yeah. I've been,
Yes. And so they're all kind of like related. And so like
I enjoyed
each location has its own storyline, but they're all kind of integrated and they're coalesced, and they all kind of come from a master story plan. But
so a lot of the day in the life of what you deal with is a lot of it's probably maintenance. Mm-hmm. And you also said
that's exactly I'm exhibition manager, but our teams are maintenance teams.
Yeah. And you also mentioned artists too. What's your relationship with artists, specifically like new artists? Like if, say I was a new artist, or I was someone that creates art, and I create something that I want to present something to you. Is that even a thing right now? Do you guys receive types of, bids and
It does. Right now, I mean, basically the way it originally started, and that's actually kind of also how I got involved in the original Denver one, is they did a call for artists. And so I was hell bent on getting in there, and I did a whole proposal, and I thought it was a pretty badass proposal. But the problem is we didn't have a lot of context. We didn't know what we were bidding, or like how we were pitching for the space. We didn't know what it was going to be. So I ended up not getting that. I got really far along, but it was not the right piece of art for the space. So, but they ended up, like, I would say, I can't even remember the percentages right now, but it's a lot of local artists that ended up helping build the place.
Are you welcoming new artists to this space?
Not right now, because, well, that's not to say it's not going to happen again in the future. But so we've been open for about 2 years now. And we have what are called flex spaces that rotate over. But we have a gallery in there, and that gallery does rotate every month or so. Every month and a half or so, we swap it out and get new artists in there. There will be other opportunities coming down the line, but there's also a lot of Meow Wolf does a lot of art outside of Meow Wolf walls. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of events.
And there's a nonprofit too that they run, and
there's a nonprofit, and so it's in Sunnyside is the neighborhood, and so they're deeply involved with the arts in Sunnyside and working with like the schools, elementary schools and middle schools over there. So there's a lot of effort in terms of like art and creation, and one of the things I would love to do is bring in more maker spaces and that kind of thing, because that's where I came from. And there actually is that down in Santa Fe. They have a whole maker space, and they do like builder maker type things, which is really cool. And I think it's just fantastic. So
what are some of the ways that y'all support artists kind of like ongoing? So like Meow Wolf started, you put a call out to artists. Artists build some amazing things in Meow Wolf. Like you said, if you haven't been, definitely go. It's mind-blowing, really. How do you continue these relationships and generate new ones? It is inspired by artists, for artists, and for the normal public that hasn't experienced that before. Like, how do you cultivate and continue and develop relationships moving forward?
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because because we do have to maintain these spaces, and they do break down a lot. I mean, everything from paper tearing to plastic things getting broken off. And so what we do is we try really, really hard to maintain the original artist's intent and try to maintain that. And a lot of times that means working with the artists still, even though that they've basically built this amazing space. It's our job to maintain their energy and their spirit with the space. And so we're fortunate that we actually get to work with a lot of continue that relationship with artists. And it's been fun for me because I know of a lot of these artists, but I don't know them personally. And so it's been cool coming on to this to actually like reach out. And sometimes it's through me, and we have an amazing artist liaison that does a lot, of the
Does the artist liaison report to you then?
Nope. Brandon Vargas, who's our artist liaison, amazing person, does a lot of that curation, and also just like when we do have people coming in, so we have to bring artists back in a lot of times to fix stuff that broke and just wear down. I mean, we use a lot of lasers and projectors and that sort of stuff that just end up breaking down. And those technical artists also need to come back in and fix that stuff. And we get to learn from them and work by them. So we get to, in that case, we get to continue working with a lot of artists like for a really long time. And so again, this is new for me, so I don't know how the long thing works, but this is how it's been in my experience for the last few months.
What was that intake process like for you coming into that environment here in Denver?
I mean, like I said, these are my people.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, tactical. What is the literal intake process? Like, what does this look like? Because it's such a massive place. It's such a unique business, such a unique business model. I'm fascinated that it's an ongoing art installation by how many artists, by the way?
I should have reviewed.
Over or under 100?
Over
100.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot.
Yeah.
And how many square foot?
So it's 90,000 square feet.
90,000. So it's a mind-blowing business
model,
is. Right?
It is.
That's why I want to ask that question in a very like literal kind of way. Like, what does this look like just to get in? Okay, you got the job. Now what?
Yeah. So it's interesting because we were just at a conference out in Las Vegas, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And, it was interesting because it's difficult to describe what Meow Wolf is to people who have never been, because it's not your typical amusement park. It's not a gallery. It's this kind of amalgamation of all sorts of things. And so how does this stuff work? And honestly, it's like that we have some really, really, really smart business development folks involved. But also it's a unique and it's a young company. So it's constantly evolving. And especially, with different economic conditions, so it's constantly changing. But, to try to circle back and nail it on the head of what you're saying, like what is it like there? I mean, one of the things I think is just crazy cool about it is that everybody there is creative. Like all those people who you would not necessarily associate directly with art, but everyone is artists there. It's very welcoming and very, very artistic environment that you're just surrounded by. When I went there the first time, my friends were working there and I went back, kind of saw behind the scenes, you're like, oh, it's not that different than what you see in the front of the house. I mean, we have computers and desks and all that kind of stuff too, but it's pretty cool. For me, it's a dream job because I get to do art, I get to do fabrication, I get to hang out and I get to work with some amazing, both teams that I get to work with are just absolutely stunning. I'm the old guy by a lot, but I get to learn from them so much. And so there's a lot of really cool collaboration between departments, and I don't know. And we just get to
Tell me how big it is. 900. How big is it again?
90,000 square feet.
90,000.
Not all of it is actually as all
There's
exhibit space.
Too,
so we have back of house stuff like storage and stuff.
It's still a massive. And if you haven't seen the big Meow Wolf building, it's I-25 in Colfax, and it's really, really cool. And it's nooked into the urban landscape. The building is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very unique looking space. It's
what
wild.
most excites you about it? If you're a guest that is bringing people in from out of town, how would you want to experience Meow Wolf? Because I know they have a lot of music.
Yeah,
there's
full venue.
Concerts basically, right?
Yep, it's a full venue.
How many people is the concert venue?
I think it's around 500.
Or maybe just
it's about 500-ish.
Okay, about 500.
I believe. I don't know exactly. And so it's called during the day it's called the Perplexiplex. It's freaking cool. It's this amazing projection mapped space with all these LiDAR sensors. I don't want to give too much of the way the magic how it works, but it's basically got these sensors that basically track you.
I haven't seen the show there yet.
So you can see the floor. So the floor does all sorts of wacky cool stuff. And it was developed by this company that just does amazing art, but it's also a venue. And so during the day, it's a really neat interactive piece, but then during the night, it becomes a venue. And so we do everything from drag shows to DJ sets to band sets to comedy to, it's a lot of stuff happen there. And there's
how many nights a week does there engagement
it depends. Probably about, I would say around 4
nights a week.
Yeah, but it ranges.
Which makes it a community hub.
It does.
If you're doing things.
Yeah, and so and
more so than just offering the experience of.
Tickets are separate from the venue to the exhibit.
Okay,
so you can go. So if you've been to the Meow Wolf exhibit numerous times, you can go to just the concert for the concert ticket price, but you can also then add an add-on if you've never been to the exhibit, and you can run around both of them and do it, and it's wild. But then there are also things like they do what are called adultiverses. So tomorrow night
they do what?
Adultiverses.
Okay.
So it's basically they have bars throughout the entire exhibit, and so it's for adults only. It's 21 and over. It's a very kid-friendly place, but it can get sometimes that's not what you want to be around all the time. So they'll basically have adults only nights, and they have bars throughout the exhibit. And then we do the other things called danceportations once a quarter, and that's where it's essentially a rave. And so they basically have DJs throughout the entire exhibit. So there's
that's what I want to go to.
Yeah, it's wild,
super fun. Wasn't that? Wait a second. Last time you and I spoke about this was it was like Halloween or something. You guys did that for Halloween.
Yeah, there was one. Yeah, I believe it was right around Halloween.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
that was a wild one. I
just remembered that.
It was cool. That was my first one because
you were just started too, so that was a little bit, and it was sold out. So it was.
Yeah.
Couldn't ask.
We just did another one.
Ask that early in the deal.
A few weeks ago, and I was not around for that one. I was out of town, but it was. It's wild.
Cool.
It's pretty cool. They used to go till 4 a.m., but it was too much trouble. I know. As a venue owner yourself, you see the trouble that happens after super late night stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Just to manage that, you already talking about a little pick on a little piece of fabric or whatnot,
Yeah. It's wild how you see,
quickly.
The paint, and it's just it's just a lot of hands touching stuff. You have to paint that. So we go in really early in the morning, every morning and paint and repair and recarpet and reprogram and there's a lot of things that a lot. And that's what's fun about it is it's not a the technology that goes behind the scenes, it was all done kind of a la carte. There's nothing that was like directly bought off the shelf. And so as a result, there's a lot of kind of wonky code or just like electronics that break, they just age out.
Well, and since y'all built the building from scratch, you did have the luxury of creating your own infrastructure.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming.
Yeah. And the architecture is absolutely wild. But it was also like, it was running and gunning and they're trying to build a lot. So there's like some considerations of like, well, how should we have done that? And on retrospect, we're like, maybe we should have done something a little different. There's a lot of lessons learned going forward. And those lessons like are really taken to heart in the new spaces. So
it's growing very fast.
It is.
Wolf. And I've read some articles and haven't really had the opportunity to learn a ton about it. There's not a ton out there.
Yeah.
When it comes to like, what is the trajectory, the funding of it? I mean, is it who's it funded by? And like, it's
investors,
private investors.
Yes.
Okay. It's not like a VC firm.
Yeah. The economic things change. So I can't, like there's a lot of investment goes on there and a lot of it's self-funding, but,
and what is the trajectory at this point in time? Like, what's the growth?
So I can't really say because only because it changes.
Okay. Yeah. And so if it's like Northern California, it's like, oh, that might not happen. Or if it's like Vegas is great, but we're not going to do anything else. Like, okay, so location you can't really talk about.
Not really. I mean, so the ones that are, except for what's been announced. And so we just opened up Grapevine, and then there's the next up behind that is Houston. So
and Grapevine's in Texas.
Yep. So there's a Dallas one and a Houston one. Essentially. It's not, I don't want, like Grapevine is Grapevine. It's not Dallas, but it's outside of Dallas.
Okay.
So I've not been there yet, so I'm excited to get down there. I just went to the Vegas one because I'd not been to Vegas either. And so I was just there a couple weeks ago, and it's cool. It's wild. Awesome. So they're all kind of have their old Meow Wolfisms.
Yeah.
And of course I've done the house down in Santa Fe a number of times. It's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the neighborhood for a little bit. You've been in town since 2006. In this neighborhood since 2006. I remember hearing stories about drag races on Larimer Street.
Yeah.
And just the crime was just rampant and very, very scary to be down here.
Yeah. It wasn't that bad though. I think that's like,
okay. I hear these things and I'm like, is it really that?
So, I mean, my studio before we were in this location, we were over, and technically we're in 5 Points. So, but I was over in another area of 5 Points over on Park Ave in Welton, out there. And everyone used to say that was a rough neighborhood. And I came in and I was like, I loved it. It was really cool. And so, but we didn't have really any crime necessarily, it's just urban stuff.
Since you've had so much time here, this neighborhood's grown so much.
Yeah.
I know there's a ton of development that's planned. Diana is very involved. I know you guys are both very involved. I just happen to see her more.
Oh, that's definitely her. She's more than I.
Yeah. So what's exciting to you guys in the neighborhood right now? And like, why do you choose to stay in RiNo?
So, and that relates back to during that era before it was RiNo. In that early era, this really was an artist district, an artist neighborhood. So there was just crazy old warehouses, like one we're sitting in right now, like these old spaces where and back then it was way cheap. This is before. What really actually kind of crashed the warehouse market around here was when marijuana became like grow house started popping up. That made the price of warehouses skyrocket, and that ended up pricing a lot of people out. But prior to that, the art that you would see here was insane, and it's hard to even convey it because we would just walk around on weekend nights and you would just see you'd literally walk through alleys and stuff, and you just see a door cracked with a little bit of a sliver of light going, knock on it, open up, and it would be just like a world of mirrors or lasers or poetry reading or fashion show or whatever it was. There was just like so much crazy underground stuff, and it was not always a win. I mean, there was like, it was like a lot of times there was not anything happening, but it was just so exciting that there was just like pop-up galleries and there was like very little rules at that time. And it was very just like whatever you want to do. And so we played into that, and we had a pretty, like, not huge space. Our place isn't gigantic, but we had a very open space. And so we started having a lot of those kind of parties where we would have art parties and galleries. And we still do that sometimes, where we have tried to bring up artists who've never shown before. So that was really a big thing for us, is trying to get somebody who's never shown before and has been like making art or wanting to make art on their own, and then wanted to get out and start doing it. So we started doing a lot more of those gallery type things. And then as the neighborhood has really become grown, one of our passions is to maintain that kind of spirit, that there's not all.
And this is what you're most excited about.
Absolutely.
Now.
Yeah. That there's like that. It doesn't need to be galleries, and nothing against galleries. I like galleries. I go to galleries a lot, but it can be kind of crazy. Like what we think of as art doesn't need to be painting on a wall or sculpture, or even it can be performance art. It can be installation art. It can be these other ones. And that's one of the things I think that I love about this neighborhood, and that's what it's rooted in, is these other types of art, like performance, like installation art. And so, one of the things that the neighborhood is known for is a lot of its murals. And so we have that's one of its like kind of identifying factors. And so we're involved with that, a lot of that, the muraling that goes on around here. But also just the keeping it interesting and weird. And so one of Diana's early big pushes was this program called No Vacancy. And so when these areas are getting developed, they ended up getting, a lot of times the developer will come in and buy a space, and usually there's a pretty long time before they actually develop the space, where they either knock down the building, scrape it, or even add on top of it, or becomes occupied. And so these spaces are sitting vacant for 2 years or so. And so let's activate those spaces. And so there's been 2 of them that have happened so far. One was down over on the Platte, and then just recently just down over here on Larimer in the IMAC building. We activate those spaces, and that comes from neighborhood, well, I guess basically neighborhood money, and we basically try to...
The association, neighborhood, the RiNo neighborhood.
Yep, the bid.
And I know the neighborhood association does their best to create and define where art goes and who's doing what. And I've been to a handful of these meetings, and they're all very, very different. And so, just trying to get a little insight on that.
I love the weirdness of this neighborhood, that we can do, just that we're trying to not break the mold, but continue just doing art that's different and that people are unexpected. So, and I think that comes from like you guys being in the neighborhood with the burner art kind of stuff, like trying to bring a little bit of the playa back to Denver, and that experience of and that's really where a lot of this stems from, because I'd never been to Burning Man or anything. And that was just, Diana had gone with her friends and came back. She's like, you got to go to this. I was like, I don't want to go. This is not my scene. This is not my jam. And she's like, I'm getting you a ticket next year. And we got a ticket. And this is like, I don't know, this is 2014. And I ended up going, and I came back a changed person. I was like, oh, I get it. I get it now. And we want to bring that level of passion, because one of the things I love about that scene is that it's art for the sake of art, right? Art for expression. It's art given no expectation of return. And that's what I love about that scene, is that there's money involved, but when you're there, it's not for sale, and you're there for the experience. And so you can have art here that you experience. It's not necessarily for sale, but you experience this stuff. So I love experiential art. So, and that's something that I think that probably draws me also with Meow Wolf, right? It's the same along the same lines, where you get good stories, and my favorite ones are the ones where you had to be there kind of things. And so that's the kind of the what we try to provide, like things that you can't do in the digital domain. I also love working in VR and digital domains as well, but I like it when you can do things that you happen only once you had the one moment in time and one location that you had to be there, and it was a fleeting thing.
Is there anything in Denver that
I'm trying to think right now,
like anything exciting, anything at all, because there are a lot of things that are happening in the city that's really cool. There's that really cool building that's going up.
Yeah,
with
the
architecture, with the funky architecture. On
I call it the Cracked Building, but I don't know. I can't remember what the name of it is. But yeah, it's getting close to done, and you see everybody up there. It's funny to see the I don't know, the subreddits on that. The people love it or hate it, and it's very polarizing for some reason. So I don't know. I guess this is me going back to being the hippie thing. I'm like, let it be cool. I don't know. I know that we definitely have housing problems and we have cost of living problems, but at the same time, I also think it's there. I think it's pretty. So
awesome.
That's not to say that there aren't other things but to instantly vilify something when there's more to the story. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think it's really neat. I lament when an old building gets torn down, but I love the Denver architecture of this stuff. When it's the old
We're so
brick.
blessed to be able to take this building over.
I love classic brick, and even some of these new buildings that are going up, even like Rambo Hotel down the street or down there, that are just, they embrace the old look with modern build, with modern architecture. I think it's really, really, really cool. Those are my favorite kind of buildings that are going up in the hood, because it keeps that like old turn of the century neighborhood, but also meets.
Denver does a pretty good job protecting history too. Well, Jeff, it's been awesome to chop it up with you a bit, and appreciate you coming on here, and can't wait to get into what your experience at Meow Wolf's like after a year. And
it's cool.
And obviously get you in here. And
if
any cool artists come across your desk, let us know, because we're still looking.
It's all the same. Yeah, it's the same energy, same scene, same vibe. I mean, we're all artists. So but yes, I think there will be some people that will be very excited to do that.
Yeah, if you know anyone, let us know, because we're in the mix right now.
Nice.
Interviewing folks, and
cool.
We have an intake form and stuff. So
nice. Yeah, I love it, man. This is gonna be cool. How like when are we talking? Like, how far out are we?
We, if we could start finishing installing stuff in April, that'd be pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, bro.
Thanks for having me, man.
Appreciate you.
Cheers.
Thank you.